we got to get into one of the opening salvos for today's show. And that comes the way of pkinsight.com regarding State of Decay 3. Now, they are reporting on things that were discussed during the Xbox 2 podcast. State of Decay 3 is a serious banger and is set to release first half of 2026. Insider reveals, and of course, that insider is Jez Cordon. Now, the article goes on to say, gentlemen, after an announcement of Dead Lab State of Decay 3 in the Xbox Showcase of 2024, fans are most concerned about the title's release date. While rumors already suggest that it will be delayed until 2026, an insider revival provides more specific timeline for the game's arrival. Now, here's the thing, folks. There is a story that is floating around that Microsoft, or specifically Xbox, did and thought about releasing State of Decay 3 this year. That plan officially has been scrapped. The game has been moved into first half. Some people are saying first quarter of 2026. And if we're just looking at the roadmap, and I'm going to bring this back around to State of Decay in a second, 2025 is a banger year already. Wait to second half, it's going to get even better. But 2026 is shaping up for not only the 25th anniversary of Xbox's platform itself, the 25th anniversary of Master Chief, the 20th anniversary of Gears of War. Next year is going to be a party from start to finish. State of Decay 3 is one of those games. Halo, the Combat Evolved Unreal Engine 5 version, or the remake, is another. You also have Gears of War E-Day, which we know is not happening this year, coming out in 2026. And that is with the potential of Forza Horizon 6. The three pillars of Xbox all coming out next year during the 25th anniversary. It seems like a storybook, ladies and gentlemen. But let's jump back on the road to State of Decay. Now, I'm going to read verbatim again from the article. This is what Jez Cordon had to say during the Xbox 2 podcast. He says, I've heard State of Decay 3 could be launching in the first half of next year. Now, okay, he says the first half. I heard the first quarter. We'll see what happens, but it's definitely coming out next year. And the game is a banger, according to Jez Cordon. I'm going to go first to Jamie Moran. Jamie, let's talk State of Decay 3, because you literally just tweeted about it. This is the game that you're excited for. And if we know anything about Undead Labs, if we know anything about State of Decay 2 and the original was an arcade release, right? It was a small team. They took a chance on something that they were passionate about. It was a pretty good release. Then State of Decay 2 comes out, and listen, again, small team, very limited budget. They eventually get purchased by Xbox, and now the fruits of the labor of all of these years of updates for State of Decay 2, it seems, based on what we saw last year, Jamie, they have honed their skills. The game looked amazing. The trailer did, in fact, have what I thought was gameplay in there as well. And now we have a potential 2026 release, at least in the first half of what is expected to be, again, folks, a big year again for Xbox. Jez Cordon calling it a banger. I mean, I don't know what he's heard, what he has seen, but Jez doesn't make statements like that quite easily. I want to get your thoughts on that specifically.
Yeah, I mean, like we were saying before the show went live, the first State of Decay was a very small budget game. I think it was one of the first major Xbox Live Arcade games that hit over a million copies sold in a week or something. It did insanely well. But as we know, that game had the budget of a a £10 note and a packet of, cigarettes, right? But with the sequel, they clearly had more of a budget, and but with me, by the way, for a little bit of a history for me today, I've always had this weird relationship with State of Decay where it's one of these franchises I absolutely want to get into, but the third-person shooting mechanics just they haven't been there for me, and micromanagement. Like, let me tell you, you know how you were talking about trying to read and do a podcast at the same time? It turns your brain into scrambled egg. That's how I feel when I play State of Decay, because I don't like managing parties and items and stuff. But, I mean, from things I've kind of seen, and the gist I get from the new game is that they might tone back on that stuff, even as an option. So, like, for me, I'm excited because, the Coalition have stepped in. They help them with the third-person shooting mechanics. And as we know, they kind of know what they're talking about when it comes to third-person shooting. So, like, for me, I'm sold on it. I can't wait to play it. But, like, even the clip we've seen with the gameplay, it looks really good. The first two games, yeah, they had their level of jank to it because, they didn't have the funding and all that stuff. But if you look at all the other studios where Xbox has stepped in, they bought the studio, and then they've put out a game afterwards, like, the quality of the game has significantly went up. Psychonauts 2 wouldn't have had boss battles if it wasn't for Microsoft. And look how that game turned out. It's an absolute masterpiece. Avowed, for some reason, people love hating on that game, but it's probably the most polished Obsidian product of all time. I've had no issues with it. So, like, Microsoft letting State of Decay do what they want with actual funding this time, it's exciting. And, when Jez Cordon calls this a quote-unquote banger, like, I think it's going to be a good game. I think people have been waiting for a new open world zombie experience that feels like good to play, because, like, I play a lot of zombie games. A lot of them tend to have this level of jank to them, and I don't know why. Maybe it's something about the undead, but everything we've seen about State of Decay so far and everything we're hearing about it looks good, sounds good. And if this is coming out early next year, and about 2026 in general, already looks stacked. Even though we don't have an official lineup, Fable and State of Decay 3, yeah, 2026 is off to a great start. And, we're going to be finding out a lot more in the next few months. But, I mean, everything so far, it looks good. And the fact that, they've been reserved on what they've shown, because they showed the CGI trailer, I think, 4 years ago. And then we got the gameplay trailer last year, and they kind of been quiet since. They're teasing and stuff, and I think that's good for them because they need to concentrate on the game. They're a very small studio, but they have a lot of people helping them, especially from the Coalition. So, like, all hands on deck. I think they've got a great product here.
Yeah, it looks phenomenal. I mean, again, folks, we did see the CG trailer with the protagonist that was in the woods with the zombie deer. Obviously, now we know that the zombies are going to be part of the animals as well, which is crazy, right? Like, already you have to deal with the dead, and now you got to worry about the freaking animals as well. Are you going to get turned? You can turn into a zombie if a squirrel bites you or something. I don't know, but it's definitely something to be concerned about. Infinite Umbra, are you there, kind sir?
I am still here. I am with the living.
Okay, well, you are part of the living, and we want you to keep on living. Listen, again, the story that we were using for context is from PK Insight. It was written by Ektar Rasul, posted March 9th, 2025. And again, I just want to read the specific quote regarding what Jez Cordon had to say about it being a banger. The story goes, what is more interesting is that the insider increased our anticipation for the title. According to Jez Cordon, that State of Decay 3 is a banger, which means that it will be an unforgettable experience and highly engaging content. Look, they had me at banger. All right. This is something that is becoming a term that was used for PlayStation's games. And listen, let's call a spade a spade. When we used that terminology, and a lot of people don't like it, it's fine. I hear you if you don't. But those games that were going one-to-one with that word were bangers. Right? Spider-Man 2018, banger. Sorry. God of War 2018, Horizon, the first one. These games deserve the titles. But we're starting to see that a lot of the Xbox games are starting to now get attached with this. This is one of them. And like I said earlier, Jez Cordon doesn't use terminology like that unless he's really, really excited about a game. And apparently he's excited about State of Decay 3. Let's get your thoughts on the fact that it is potentially coming first half of 2026, an already stacked year, but this game has been in development for many, many years. And look, I've said this before. I understand that the virtual tomatoes are going to come out. It's great. No problem. I very much enjoyed State of Decay 2. I have nearly 60 hours. I played solo. I did. I don't have the time in the day to set up, hanging out with the community. I wish I did, folks. I just don't. So I played almost 60 hours, and I very much enjoyed myself. I cleared the first 2 areas, got to the third area, and put it down. What I'm hoping for this, because they've had so much time with it, and this is where the virtual tomatoes might come out, I am hoping for a single-player campaign that also offers the State of Decay that everyone knows and loves. If you like this open world, survival-esque, zombie-filled world, it's there for you. Build your town, build your crew, go out and try and clear as much areas as you can. That's the retaining loop with State of Decay. And that's awesome. But I am hoping for a story that's somehow interwoven into the open world survival aspect of it. I'm not saying it needs to be like Resident Evil 2. I'm saying that it would be pretty cool to have a named protagonist be a part of that world, a story that's a part of that world. And then when you're done with that story, Umbra, then move on to multiplayer where you create a character from scratch and you go out into this world. What are your thoughts on what Jez Cordon had to say? And more importantly, do you think it needs a single player campaign?
Yeah, with what Jez has spoke on, I mean, I would be very surprised if it landed early 2026. But I mean, who knows? I mean, they've been quiet for a long time. We did see, of course, the CGI. Well, some of it was gameplay of State of Decay 3. So I don't know how far along they might be. So who's to say? And Jez is fairly reliable when it comes to stuff like this. So he's not going to say something like this if he hasn't seen some things or was told some reliable things from somebody he trusts. So it's possible. But that doesn't mean that it's guaranteed, right? Because everything changes, things can slip, et cetera, so delays, et cetera. So I don't know for sure if that's the case. I almost always feel like games like this, or games that are based on horror or death, as far as supernatural type things and stuff like that, should always be around Halloween. I don't know if I'm alone in that, but I feel like it's here. State of Decay in April just doesn't ring the same to me as if it was October. I don't know, but yeah, no. I mean, hey, hopefully that it is the case. I feel like, again, I am so content with what Xbox is doing, Microsoft is doing with their games, as far as their release schedule and everything like that. I don't doubt them. We know the games are coming. I feel like so relaxed nowadays because I think they've landed at a really good spot, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? I trust that they're going to deliver when it comes to those games. And they've had a steady stream now of 80 plus whatever games. And I think that's going to continue, if not go higher. So I am excited for it to drop, largely because I've never actually really played them. I played part 1 way back, just a bit. And part 2, I've never played. I never found any group that I wanted to jump into it with and all of that. And that will lead to your second question. And that I would agree with you 100%. Having it where it's an actual story. See, for me, because stories go far and take me far in a game. If it's actually story and narrative based, and it's not just, I'm just running around and surviving, that to me doesn't appeal to me as much as having an actual story that has a beginning, a denouement, as they would say, a denouement. You see these nice French words.
I love it. So
nice,
early in the morning, and you said you were asleep. I don't understand what you're talking about, sir.
My brain is fighting with itself. I feel like the lack of sleep, oxygen, and everything is just making me say things. Yeah, if I start speaking French fully, you'll know what's up. But yeah, I like games that have all of that as well. So I'm with you there. If I feel like giving it a central protagonist or protagonists and allowing that to have a real story, I think would actually take it to the next level. Because I think they're kind of in this niche, and that's probably, in my opinion, why it's not as popular as it could be. Is because it doesn't have that extra something, right? That is not, and I hate to compare it, but it's the closest thing that I can think of it, which is a Last of Us. I would love for them to have something of, a budget push behind them, not to necessarily do what they do there, but that will give them more leeway to actually give us a real solid story in this universe that outside of just, oh, well, people are zombies and you have to work together and build civilizations or whatever, or camps or whatever. I would like more than that, more meat on the bone, as they would say, and I think that would actually push me to get into this game more. As it stands, though, I will say, they already have me hook, line, and sinker using Unreal Engine, so
that is not a surprising statement, sir.
Meat on the bone is not a pause. Creative must.
I mean, I thought zombie, but the chat is the chat. So thank you for the pause, because that could have been taken a different way.
It'll say pause. They ain't a pause.
Oh my goodness! You know what's interesting, guys? And I'll come back to you in a second. I want to then bring this back to Jamie, because it was, I want to throw this single player aspect at him, get his hot take. If there is one publisher that knows how to release a game that has both sides of the coin and not only take advantage of the knowledge, but do it to great success, it's Xbox. Now, granted, I'm not taking us all the way back to yesteryear when they used to do it with Gears and Halo, but Gears is going to have a single player and a multiplayer. The new Halo is going to have a single player and a multiplayer. Forza, the Horizon 6, is going to have a multiplayer and a single player aspect world that you're living in. This is an opportunity, and I think you're onto something, Infinite Number, about getting people hooked. Now, again, I don't know how big of a gas game this is going to become, but obviously it's a trending thing, right? It's going into Game Pass day and date. Great. If there is a single player, story-driven, narrative-focused story that introduces the player into this world that is no longer a living world, it's a zombie-filled world where everyone is fighting for survival, and they have this overarching story that has you crossing the path of potentially other players, or having just a story that's narrative focused, that teaches you the mechanics, has a protagonist, has a start, a middle, an end, and then when you're done with that story, you as the player might be so inclined or so smitten, if you will, with the world, with the character that you just finished using to beat the game, or just the idea of, wow, I played the single player. Now I want to see what this is like in multiplayer. I want to see what the survival aspect of this is. I think it could work. I think it could work really well. And I think it would get people to go from that single player game and move into potentially playing multiplayer, because that's usually how it works, Infinite Number.
Yeah, I mean, all of that's cool too, right? And it can definitely, it definitely allows it for microtransactions too. I'm sure that's a way to boost sales for the series and things like that. I mean, I've said it many times. I'm an aesthetic thought. So you put some good quality stuff inside of a game, you probably gonna get a feel. Yeah. You put put a fake little Master Chief, a little armor inside of something. There's a good chance a brother might have to log in. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'm with that 100%. Yeah, I mean, and speaking of the whole, as an aside, is the old aesthetic thing. Today is the 11th, Boom. I think we're supposed to get our helmets today.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So I already have to do an unboxing, so I may have to do two. Yeah, I'm gonna set that up because I am gonna unbox that for sure. That looks dope. I can't. That's right. I forgot that it was actually releasing this, so I have to check my my notifications to see where that bad boy is. But Jamie, I do want to just bring this back around to you and ask you about the single player / multiplayer, because obviously this game is and was launched as a open world survival game. Now, there are a lot of people that want it to retain what it was, and I'm not saying it shouldn't. What I'm saying is that there is an aspect of this game, or at least an opportunity by the developers, to deliver a single player, story driven, narrative focused game that obviously teaches the player about the survival. But I think there's people that want to have an actual story that they could follow while playing the multiplayer. Any thoughts to that?
I would love a single player story for this. I really would. As I was saying before, I found the previous two difficult to get into just because the shooting mechanics and like the dynamic storyline stuff which happens in 2. Like, I don't know, Rachel that works in the office upstairs needs a spoon for a yogurt. Can you go into this zombie infested hive to get a spoon? Right? Just stuff like that. And like that's the kind of stuff I came up with. It's like that stuff's cool and all, but for me, I would love a story, have that world, have it where you have to actually I want basically the ideal thing for me, I want the perfect Walking Dead experience. Right? And State of Decay could do that. I think them having a storyline. I think them having a storyline it would be easy to advertise. Maybe have a set character for a storyline, like you're saying. I honestly prefer that. And when it comes to the whole live service thing, it's like if you look at a lot of games Microsoft puts out, most of them aren't even live service games. This game's going to be supported for a while. Obviously, they probably have some skin packs and stuff, but I'm guessing they'll support it with expansions for a very long time. But like a single player story mode, I think would go a long way because like that'll get nerds like me and the rest of us playing this game day one, jumping into the story, and also would get people ready for the shared world wild experience. It's what I want. I think I honestly think a story mode would be the best thing for the franchise.